Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, and I'd like to call the Fitchburg City Council to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilor Zarella to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Zarella. And Madam Clerk, if you could please conduct the roll.
The following councilors have logged in for this evening and are present at tonight's meeting. President Kuchmarek, Councilor Boschman, Councilor Kucher, Councilor DiNatale, Councilor Fleming, Councilor Green, Councilor Schultz, Councilor Squalia, Councilor Van Hazinga, Councilor Walsh, and Councilor Zarella.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Zarella with a motion for suspension.
Motion to suspend any and all council rules that conflict with either the remote format or the governor's guidance and state's guidance pertaining to remote participation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilor Zarella.
Yes.
President Kuchmarek.
Yes.
Councilor Boschman.
Yes.
Councilor Kucher. Councilor Kucher. Councilor DiNatale.
Yes.
Councilor Fleming.
Yes.
Councilor Green.
Yes.
Councilor Schultz.
Yes.
Councilor Squalia.
Yay.
Councilor Van Hazinga.
Yes.
Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
We had 10 votes.
We had one dissent from Councilor Kucher that we couldn't hear. Is that correct?
Yes.
There was no dissent. It was a yes. You.
I wanted to correct the record. Thank you, Councilor Kucher. The joys of technology for us. So it is unanimous. Motion carries. Next, we have public forum. We had advertised, we had one person sign up for public forum. I don't know, I'll give FATV a moment. It looks like we're being joined now by Mr. Fossa, speaking to petition 12720. Mr. Fossa, are you with us this evening?
I hope so. Can you see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you. And
okay.
At this time, I will give you 2 minutes. Just give me a moment here. Set it up. All right, sir, the floor is yours.
Well, welcome. Greetings to all the councilors, and I think you've done a great job carrying government forward under the circumstances, doing a great job with this medium from an old stomping ground, FATV. So real quickly and succinctly, I did have some conversation with my ward councilor, Elizabeth Walsh, regarding reopening and any plans forward that the city would have with businesses locally, and that just make it imperative that we engage local small business, micro businesses in that discussion forward. Certainly not any kind of a negative or connotation to this request. It's just that I think it's imperative that if we're to not look back and make any kind of corrections forward, we may be very efficient if we include individuals from the community that run small businesses for any impact that might come from legislation forward. So that was really the intent of it. Whether or not it's the right forum, whether or not it's the right mechanism to use, we certainly support that inclusion for the local business people.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining us this evening. With that, councilors, if there are no objections, so we do have a number of department heads I know joining us this evening. They wish to speak to items that appear on the orders finance. And councilors, if there are no objections now, we will not have those department heads and employees speak at this time, and instead we will have them join us at the appropriate time during the agenda. Seeing no objections, we'll now hear an oral report from the Appointments Committee, which met earlier this evening. All 5 members of the committee were present, took up the following matter. New appointments, member of the Human Rights Commission, term to expire May 1st, 2023, of Ms. Maritza Knight, and that was adopted unanimously.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve. If there are no objections, we will accept her appointment by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, the matter is passed. Next, we'll hear a report from the Committee on Records. Councilor Squalia.
We've reviewed the records and they appear to be in order.
Motion we accept.
I have a motion and second to accept. If there are no objections, we will accept the report from the Committee on Records. Seeing no objections, the matter is approved. Next, we have a singular communication from His Honor the Mayor. It is one letter of appointment. Detective Paul McNamara as Special Police Officer for the City of Fitchburg. That will be sent to appointments. We also have one other communication, councilors, that we received regarding the FY 2021 budgets that everyone received. That'll be placed on file at the city clerk's office unless there is further objection. Seeing none. Next, we'll hear a report from the Finance Committee. Councilor Di Natale, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very quickly, last Tuesday evening, Finance Committee met and took up several orders. Very quickly going through them, 10420 was a transfer of $132,000 charged against our reserve for snow and ice removal and credited to the DPW snow and ice accounts, equipment rental, and salt. This would close out the account for fiscal year 20. 10520 was an order to transfer $168,000 against reserve for snow and ice removal and credited to cemetery capital expenses, cemetery expansion for the expansion of the Forest Hill Cemetery. That, along with 10620, was also a transfer for $7,000. So the total was $175,000. The committee approved transferring to the cemetery department to expand its cemetery at Forest Hill. It would create 800 new grave sites. Right now, the current capacity of the Forest Hill Cemetery, Mr. Bossinetto said, is around 200. The cost is $175,000, which we transferred, and the revenue from the 800 grave sites will be around $1.6 million. $540,000 of that will go to perpetual care, and the remainder will go into the general fund. So those two orders were adopted unanimously. 10720 was an order to transfer $600,000 from available funds to the Community Development Capital Expenses Construction Account for the Downtown Transformation Project. 10820 was an order to charge $455,000 against reserve for other municipal purposes, capital expenses, and credited to Capital Fund Parking Garage Renovation Account for the purpose of repairing the stairwells at the Putnam Place Garage. Treasurer Cervantes testified that this would be the final phase of repairs and reconstruction of the Putnam Street Garage. 10920 was an order to transfer $50,000 against reserve for other municipal purposes, capital expenses, and credited to library capital expense building renovation for the purpose of preparing and repainting the exterior windows of the library building. That was adopted. 11020 was an order to transfer $50,000 from reserve for other municipal purposes, capital expenses, and credited to capital projects, Fitchburg High School lighting conversion for the purpose of converting to LED lighting. It's also going to apply to South Street and Longstrel Middle School as well. And then 11120 was an order to accept a grant from the Department of Transportation Mass Aeronautics Division for $23,332. And that grant was to repair the downed fencing along the airport property. Just repair the fencing, not replace the whole stretch of fencing. Mr. Kettle testified that will be an additional grant we will receive likely next year to replace the entire fence line with new higher fencing. Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve. Councilors, we'll do this by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Councilor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Councilor Boishman,
Yes.
Councilor Kuchar,
Yes.
Councilor Di Natale,
Yes.
Councilor Fleming,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Schultz,
Yes.
Councilor Squalia,
Yay.
Councilor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous motion carries. Next, we'll hear a Legislative Affairs Committee report. Councilor Walsh.
Good evening, Mr. President. The Legislative Affairs Committee met on May 12th, which was last Tuesday. There were two items on the agenda. The first was 02820, Councilor Paul Boishman to amend Chapter 169-58, the winter parking ban, to increase the fee from $30 to $60 per day when the winter parking ban is in place. Chief Martineau had requested some time to examine that, and so we held that. Councilor Boishman willingly went along with that, and so we held that. The second item on the agenda was 02920, Fitchburg Planning Board to amend the Fitchburg zoning ordinance as part of Phase 1 of the ordinance update to make clarifications in the table of principal uses as outlined in the petition. That was accepted. I would like to note that Councilor Schultz had made two motions to amend, and I do have some additional information to add in response. Councilor Schultz and I have been in conversations along with Representative Stephen Hay, but I'll wait and address that once this matter is set for public hearing this evening, and I'll wait until that point in time to impart that information.
With that, the report is before the council. Councilor Zarella.
As we do have a required public hearing later this evening, I would move that we accept the report of the Committee on Legislative Affairs as to both items and approve the recommendation of the committee only as to 02820.
Okay. To accept the report and to only approve 02820.
Yes, because the later one has to be considered later this evening.
And just for clarification, Councilor, so if you're looking to either vote against or speak to the intricacies of 02920, Councilor, we'd then do that at the appropriate time when we get to the public hearing. Is that your recommendation, Councilor?
Yes.
Okay. Does everyone understand that piece?
Second.
So I have a motion and second to, again, I'm going to say this one more time, to accept and approve 02820, the recommendation 02820, and simply accept the report as it pertains to 02920. Anyone looking to speak to this or ask questions, I'd recommend that you do that when it appears later on the agenda. That said, Councilor speaking to the motion, Councilor Boishman, I know you would ask, are you amenable to waiting until the next mention?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. That said, we'll do this by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Councilor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Councilor Boishman,
Yes.
Councilor Kuchar,
Yes.
Councilor Di Natale,
Yes.
Councilor Fleming,
Yes.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Schultz,
Yes.
Councilor Squalia,
Yay.
Councilor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
It's unanimous. Motion carries. And thank you, Councilor Zarella, for your very specific wording there on that motion. That said, next we have 02920 as a public hearing. Fitchburg Planning Board to amend the Fitchburg zoning ordinance as a part of Phase 1 of an ordinance update to make clarifications in the table of principal uses as outlined in the enclosed petition. I now declare the hearing open. I would ask that folks representing this please join us. At this time, I would just ask FATV if you could bring Mr. Skorofsky in to join us for this. Mr. Skrowski, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Is there anyone else from your team who should be joining us as well for this?
Good evening, everyone. Nope, it's just me.
Okay. That said, Councilor, Mr. Skrowski, I believe you've already spoken at length in the Legislative Affairs Committee meeting. So what I'll do is I'll now turn this over to the next section, which is to allow councilors to ask any specific questions or speak to any concerns they might have, unless you had anything further you wish to add.
No, I think that's quite all right. I mean, if anyone requests, I did provide a quick overview PowerPoint. I'd be happy to run through that in 5 or 10 minutes if folks feel there's the need. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer particular questions as they come along.
Excellent. We'll start with questions, and if we need to revert back to the PowerPoint, we can do that.
Sure.
That said, first I have Councilor Boschman.
Oh, yeah, hi. I talked to Tom numerous times. I just want to make it well known that I had concerns about the parking. I told him about the parking. I had concerns about on the corner lots with the fences and not taking care after they put a fence up in the back of their property, the overgrowth and that. I'd like to see that addressed because we have that problem on numerous streets. There's others, but I'll talk to Tom later this week.
And if I could just briefly, so one of the important things to keep in mind here, our zoning update's a two-phase process. So first phase is what I'd call sort of administrative. So we're covering sort of small minor changes, clearing up inconsistencies, removing redundancies, condensing various sections where appropriate. Phase 2 is what I'd call the transformative, and that's where we'll be making map amendments. That's where we'll be looking at, use adjustments. For example, we have 8 central business districts in the city. And I would argue when we have 8 scattered throughout the city, they cease to be central, right? So one of the things we'll be doing in phase 2 is looking at where is our actual central business district and what are the characteristics that are unique about it? And then what makes our other districts unique? What makes John Fitch unique? What makes Wayland Street unique? Because I think we can all agree that all of those districts function differently and the zoning should look differently for each of them. Another item we'll be looking at is parking. So to the councilor's point, I think that will be a big component of phase 2. And, certainly look forward to hearing any councilor's feedback. As we're moving into that phase, Councilors Zarella and Walsh are part of our advisory team, also part of our working group that's really been all hands on deck on the ground building out the ordinance itself. But by all means, my office is open. If not in person, virtually, phone calls, et cetera. I'm happy to talk things through with you over the next few months as we move through phase 2.
Thank you, Mr. Skrowski. Does that address all of your points, Councilor Boschman?
What's that?
Does that address all of your concerns before
What other concern? I want to make sure I was just about what the heck, I was just thinking about what I was going to say too. I'll talk to him after. I forgot off the top of my head. You shocked me.
All right. All right. Thank you, Councilor Boschman. Next, we have Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to address the 2 amendments that Councilor Schultz had put forward. One was to amend the zoning ordinance to change the name of marijuana to cannabis. I've been in conversations with Representative Hay, Councilor Zarella at the time, and if I'm misrepresenting anything that any of the other councilors had stated at last week's meeting, please feel free to step in and let me know. But Councilor Zarella made the statement that which is true, that in all of the Massachusetts general laws, the substance is referred to as marijuana. The only reference to it as cannabis is in the Cannabis Control Commission name. In my conversations with Representative Hay, he said he would be willing to examine filing legislation to remedy that, to change the name marijuana to cannabis at some point in time. And Councilor Schultz and I talked about that, and he agreed that we would give Representative Hay the opportunity to take that step before we went ahead and changed anything here. On the second amendment, and I hope I have this right, Councilor Schultz, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But he wanted an amendment to modify the areas where retail outlets would be allowed to sell marijuana. And we agreed that that would be better left until phase 2 to address. So is that everything that we had discussed, Councilor Schultz? Did I get that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Next we have, Councilor Zarella. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to note very quickly, first, that once again, I'm very, very pleased that we're finally doing this. It's long overdue. And I think that the outside consultants we've brought on and Mr. Skorowski's office have done an excellent job with it. I think this is going to, even just this phase 1 change, once it takes effect, is going to make the work of zoning administration much, much easier. I'd also just like to note for any of my fellow councilors or members of the public, as we proceed to phase 2, if there are any items within the zoning code that you think need to be addressed, even if you don't have an exact solution for them, please do bring them to my attention or to the attention of the Community Development Office, or I'll take the liberty of volunteering Councillor Walsh as well, because we on the advisory committee, our commission, are thinking very hard about this, but we can't possibly think of everything. There are going to be ideas that we don't have just because we haven't had time to think through them for long enough to come up with everything possible. So any input is welcome. If there's something that's been bothering you, this would be the time to bring it up between now and the summer, so that we can start working on possible solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zarella. Next, we have Councilor Van Huizenga. The floor is yours.
Hello, as a former planning board member and a real estate professional who's worked with the Fitchburg Zone Ordinance and ordinances elsewhere out in the state, I think this is a cleanup that's very well needed. There's a lot of contradictory statements or things that aren't exactly clear. No major substantive changes are made in this phase. It's mostly just to clean it up, to make it more usable, and to make things better and easier to use. So I think I would encourage everybody to support this amendment, and I'm looking forward to phase 2.
Thank you, Councilor Van Huizenga. Councilor Boschman, speaking for the second time. The floor is yours.
Yep. I found out what I forgot. I want to talk about the unregistered cars in the yard, if you can remember that, Tom. Unregistered cars, the number of unregistered cars that we're going to allow in the yard at one time. All right.
And yeah, we discussed previously today as well, and I've got it on the list, but I think it's good to get it into the record to ensure we consider that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll just echo the sentiments of others, particularly Councilor Van Huizenga just earlier, stating, the work that's being done here is crucial. It not only makes it easier for our boards and commissions that have to deal with this on a much more regular basis in terms of administering the codes and the zoning of our city, but even more the intent, and particularly over the course of round 2. It sounds boring. I realize to the public, your average residents might never or rarely interact with zoning regulations, but that's crucial. It sets the stage for how and where business is done, and the tranquility of individual residential neighborhoods. So it really impacts everything across the board, and it helps define these individual neighborhoods, communities, and where business, commercial, industrial, and residential occur. That's the important work, and it really sets the stage for everything that happens in our city. So as boring as it may sound, it is truly crucial work, and I commend those who are involved in it. And the hope here is certainly that it becomes easier for those who have to administer this. But in my mind, even more importantly, that it becomes easier for our external folks coming in looking to start businesses, or residents looking to come into the city or make modifications, to make it easier for them to do what they need to do in terms of interacting and interfacing with the city. So thank you to all involved. I know it's crucial work, and this certainly has my support. With that said, Councillor Squalia, the floor is yours.
Yes, so going on the note of the future phase 2 for the zoning, kind of a question for Tom. In this pandemic, we have our singular cannabis retail adult use shop that hasn't been able to operate due to the governor's restriction. But if they were able to sell medical cannabis as well, then they could have been operating this time. When we adjust the zoning in phase 2, we really need to expand the allowance of the medical sales of cannabis to all of the areas that we allow adult use sales of cannabis. And my concern is how long this process is going to take for the phase 2. Do you think that we should kind of initiate that remedy if we want it to be done sooner than a long, it sounds like this phase 2 zoning might take a long time. Do you think, how long do you think it might take for this zoning change to actually happen? And should we maybe consider putting in to allow medical use where we allow adult use earlier than the zoning?
So a few things to clarify there. So number one, with Local Roots in particular, they made the decision not to sell medical cannabis. And I think, at least from their vantage point, when they applied, was unrelated to the zoning prohibition. Although you're correct, our medical marijuana areas are only really in the eastern and western wings of the city by the airport and West Fitchburg, respectively. So that choice was sort of separate from zoning. I think it was just a business decision on their end. And I will say that last Wednesday at our planning board meeting, we did provide an allowance for them, anticipating the governor's move to allow for a curbside delivery, which is actually prohibited in our zoning, but at least for an emergency waiver period, while the CCC allows for it, we will too. And I think we'll continue to look for ways to be flexible to support the cannabis industry in Fitchburg. I think it's really important to support all these small businesses that are just getting up and running. So that's just one thing on the Local Roots side. In terms of the zoning, actually phase 1 does consolidate medical and non-medical cannabis and brings them under one roof, so to speak. And what it also does is we've removed the medical marijuana overlay district. So actually, for all intents and purposes, a retailer will be able to sell medical marijuana within all the districts that they're permitted to sell recreational. And then the last question in terms of timing, it's obviously a lot of unknowns right now. In some respects, zoning and having these advisory group meetings is very difficult to do right now in terms of pulling a large group of folks together. At the same time, this type of sort of planning work and this deliberative work of zoning rewrites, it in some degrees also lends itself well to the current situation, because while we can't do other things, we certainly can move forward and have been working with our consultants at BSC to start drafting those phase 2 amendments. So the initial goal is to have a draft completed in early June, the first week in June, and then really determine what the best way to interface with the advisory committee from there is going to look like. My goal would be to have something by the end of summer. But I think certainly for purposes of cannabis, we'll have satisfied the criteria that you've set out well before that, and really once our phase 1 changes are approved.
Thank you so much, Tom. I thought I had read something like that, but I wasn't sure. So thank you so much for clarifying that. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Councillor Schultz. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. I didn't have a question for you, Tom, but I just had a comment, and I really appreciated the tracking of the changes that you made to the zoning ordinance, and I hope you continue that for phase 2.
Thank you. It's easy for all of us, I think.
Yeah, very, very good.
Next, we have Councillor Zarella. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my fellow councilors' point, for the 2 or 3 people following along at home in the ordinance, I did just want to point out, if you look at 181.31 line E13, that's where we condense it all down just to marijuana retailers, no medical versus adult use. And then if you do go to the 181.643, it does define a marijuana retailer as both medical and non-medical. Just for anyone who's looking at where we made that change and how we implemented it.
Thank you, Councillor Zarella. That said, Councillors, just to everyone viewing, we'll next just go through the actions of, is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? If all have been heard, declare the hearing closed. The matter is now before the body.
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
I have a motion and second to accept. Councilors, that is 02920. We'll do this by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Councilor Zarella.
Yes.
President Kuchmarek.
Yes.
Councilor Boschman.
Yes.
Councilor Kucher.
Yes.
Councilor Di Natale.
Yes.
Councilor Fleming.
Yes.
Councilor Green.
Yes.
Councilor Schultz.
Yes.
Councilor Squalia.
Yay.
Councilor Van Hazinga.
Yes.
Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous motion carries. Next, we have public hearing 09820, Comcast to request a grant of location to install a new conduit to provide service to 1200 John Fitch Highway. I now declare the hearing open. Do we have someone joining us on behalf of Comcast this evening? Seeing none. Councilors, I believe you received information in your packet, and the matter is before you. We can at least get a sense of if councilors had specific questions in order for them to feel comfortable voting. I would, okay. So we do have Dave Flelling on the line with us. Dave, are you with us?
Yes, good evening, Dave Flelling, Comcast.
Dave, thank you for joining us. If you could speak briefly to 09820, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. Again, Dave Llewellyn, Comcast. I would like to speak in favor of the Comcast petition starting on Will Thompson Way at the existing Comcast pedestal, excavating to place 1 4-inch PVC conduit 91 feet plus or minus to a proposed Comcast pedestal. From newly placed pedestal, the conduit installation continues onto the private property to service number 1200 John Fitch Highway.
Thank you, sir. I know I have at least one question from councilors. We'll mute everyone here, and I'll allow that councilor to ask a question. Councilor Boschman, the floor is yours. Give me one moment here. We can unmute you. I apologize, everyone. I lost my internet connection momentarily. Councilor Boschman, the floor is yours.
One question from when he puts the new box across the street, is he going to put it behind the sidewalk or on the sidewalk?
It would be behind the sidewalk.
Okay. Okay. I'm all in favor of it.
All right. That said, I see no further questions from councilors. So is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? If all have been heard, I declare the hearing closed. The matter is now before the council, and I have a motion from Councilor Boschman and a second from Councilor Van Hazinga to accept. we will do this by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
It is unanimous. Motion carries. Mr. Llewellyn, thank you for joining us. You're more than welcome to stay, but you're under no such obligation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, councilors, we have a number of orders for finance. I would ask at this time, there is just about every order before us this evening. There's a request for suspension. So at this point, I would ask for a singular suspension of the rules for all of the orders before us, and then we'll take them one at a time individually.
So moved.
I have a motion and second for suspension of the rules. Again, councilors, you have to do this by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
It is unanimous. Motion carries. So first before us this evening, excuse me, 11820, order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $20,000, same to be transferred from election and registration, personal services, election workers, and credited to city clerk, personal services, city clerk, $8,000, and city clerk, personal services, sick time buyback, $12,000. We have our clerk with us if there are questions from councilors. Otherwise, I would
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve. Councilors speaking to the motion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher, Counselor Kucher.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous motion carries. Excuse me, councilors. Allergies, I'm losing my voice. 11920, order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $37,012, same to be charged against available funds and credited to veterans cash benefits and veterans funeral benefits in the amount of $2,012. Accounts for the purpose of covering anticipated expenses for the remainder of the year. Councilors, we received a communication in our packet. Keep in mind, these are 75% reimbursable from the state. Matter is now. I have a motion and second to accept. Councilor speaking on the motion. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous motion carries. Next, we have 12020, ordered that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $46,981, $981.51, same to be transferred from year 41 homeowner rehabilitation program to year 45 business assistance program.
Move to accept.
I have a motion and second to accept. Speaking on the motion, seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could conduct the roll call.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Next, we have 12120, ordered that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $50,000, same to be transferred from year 45 demolition to year 45 business assistance program.
Move
Motion to accept.
I have a motion and seconds to accept. Speaking on the motion, seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could conduct roll call vote, please.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmerek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous motion carries. Next, we have 12220, ordered that the city of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the CARES Act, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, CDBG, CV program in the approximate amount of $586,047 for the purpose of said grant as follows: Small Business Assistance Program, $130,000, Rental Mortgage and Utility Assistance, $230,000, Health and Social Services Resources, $70,000, Purchase of PPE, $21,000, Homelessness Services, $20,000, Food Insecurity Assistance, $25,000, and Grant Administration, $90,047.
Move to accept.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and second to accept. Speaking on the motion, give me one moment. Councilor Boishman, the floor is yours.
One question for Tom on the motion here. How soon is he going to start this program on the rental mortgage utility assistant?
Great question, Councilor. Dependent on a few different factors. And I'm actually going to first just say a quick thank you for 12020 and 12120 for suspending the rules and the votes. That's going to allow us to do a lot of great things with our business grants and loans. And for topics pertaining to 12220, I'm going to hand it over to Liz Murphy, Housing and Development Director, to answer that and other questions. Well, I would appreciate being left on the line for supporting responses as well.
Absolutely, we'll do that. And we now have Liz Murphy joining us. Liz is working to unmute you here. And the floor is yours, Liz.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to answer your question, Councilor Boishman, it is a little bit dependent on how quickly the funds come to us from HUD. They haven't been released yet, and there's still a little bit of a process to undergo. But we are hopeful that we will be able to get the funds moving to get to residents who are in need, within a month would be our goal, but it really is somewhat out of our control still. So with that, if I may, I would like to give a little bit of a brief overview of the CARES Act and how we intend to spend these funds.
Absolutely, please do. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So the CARES Act was enacted on March 27th, and as you may know, we're receiving a direct entitlement from CDBG CV of $586,047. The funds haven't been released yet by HUD, but we're working to have the systems in place so that we can act immediately upon release. We were instructed to use an existing action plan amendment to allocate the funds as quickly as we can and not wait for HUD to issue their formal Federal Register regulations, which is a little unusual. HUD has been issuing guidance in memo form by topics over the past month and a half, and we started surveying local entities, primarily the service providers, around April 15th to start identifying our highest needs in Fitchburg. HUD has issued waivers allowing us to use these virtual public hearings with a 5-day comment period as opposed to our typical practice of a 30-day period, which is the normal requirement. Part of our amendment is to amend our citizen participation plan to allow for that 5-day public comment period and virtual meetings. So some of the highlights of what the CARES Act entails. The funding does need to directly support COVID-19 relief efforts, can't be used for anything prior to the enacting legislation. Funds can't be used to duplicate benefits of other programs. As a result, we're trying to focus on areas of need where there's gaps in where the high demand is, and where we anticipate that the need might exceed the funding that's available. So our allocation of funds is based on need and identified by our community surveys that were sent out starting April 15th. The fund is built to be flexible. The plan, this plan was meant to change based on evolving need and shifting guidance from HUD, and can be flexible with only a 5-day comment period. We can't use the funding to supplement government operations that have shortfalls, and the existing regulations requiring beneficiaries to be income eligible, they're still in effect. And then just diving into the line items, our administrative line item, that is $90,047. That is just over 15%. We're allowed to go up to 20%, but it accounts for staff time that's being redirected from other programs. My time is actually a really good example of that. Since prior to COVID-19, I spent about 10% of my time on CDBG activities. Now I'm spending 75 to 90% of my time on COVID-19 activities. Our HUD mandated 5-year consolidated plan is also needs to be completed in FY 21, and it was our intention to do that in-house. Briefly, it involves public engagement around community needs assessment and surveys, fair housing review, and planning for how we'll prioritize and allocate our funds to meet the highest need over 5 years. As our focus is now shifting to pandemic-related activities, we will charge our time to the CV admin and then free up some of that next year admin to allow us to hire a consultant to do that mandatory 5-year plan with us. The admin could also provide cost savings to the city in this tight fiscal environment, because I'm likely to charge less of my time to the city account because I'll be focused more on pandemic activities, as much as I want to stay focused on problem property activities that may not be feasible. If needed, it will also allow us to fund some admin support for an external organization to fund administer the rental assistance. So that is our intention with admin. Briefly, our intention with the business support, we have $130,000 there, plus $46,981 that you just approved. That gives us $175,000, and this is in addition to $100,000 in previously provided business assistance to 41 businesses. We now have another 26 businesses on our waiting list. We're working with the FRA and the TDI team as well. So the FRA provided $100,000 in a very similar manner to small businesses, and $65,000 is coming from the TDI group. So in total, we have about $450,000 to try to support our small businesses, which is roughly between 60 and 70 businesses that we think will be able to assist. Diving into rental support, that $230,000 we think an average rent is probably going to be about 100,000. I mean, excuse me, 1,000, not 100,000, for 1 month of rental assistance or utility assistance, or in this case, it could also be mortgage assistance. So those funds could pay for 230 units of rental assistance. If we did 3 months of rental assistance, that would be about 76 households. And it could, like I said, it could be used for mortgage payments as well. We also are telling HUD that we're going to be refocusing some of our existing home funds away from homeowner rehab and add to our rental assistance with a tenant-based rental assistance program, which is a home eligible activity. We're going to start with 145,000 in home funds. That will be another 145 units of rental assistance. Unfortunately, that assistance can't be used for mortgage. So that would be another 48 households if we did 3 months of assistance. We're considering that same TBRA program with next year's home funds as well, or some of next year's home funds, but we're going to wait and see what the need is. Just to let people know that the payments that we would make with these funds would have to go directly to the landlords, utility companies, or mortgage companies. We couldn't just give the money to a resident to then pay their rent with. And we can't use the funds for any arrearages prior to March 27th. Before I go any further, do folks have questions?
Liz, could you talk a little bit through some of the mechanics, both for the small business assistance program as well as the rental mortgage and utility assistance of, if you're either a small business that hasn't already been in contact with you or an individual affected on the mortgage, rent, and utility side, what do the mechanics of applying for and going through this process look like?
Sure. The small business assistance, there is an application that's currently on our webpage. And it's like a Survey Monkey. So folks fill it out and then it goes to us automatically and we review it. And we have been following up via email, and that's worked actually really well in these times to do everything electronically. But there are some people can call if they have questions. They can contact me, and we can help them work through it if they don't use technology. But that has been rare. With respect to the rental assistance, we think right now that the CDBG assistance, we will be likely using an agency, probably Mock, but we're not sure. We want to put out a request to get proposals so that we can identify the best way to provide these funds quickly. So that piece is still in process. But Mock does have an existing program now because they're working with the United Way to do just this. So what we wouldn't do is work with an agency that's never done rental assistance before, because that would be just a high bar to overcome when you've never worked with this kind of a program before. The home TBRA program, we are likely to do at least some of that in-house. So we'll have to set up the program. So yeah, I do anticipate that there's still a little bit of work to do before we can release those funds.
Okay. Thank you. I do have questions from Councillor Green next. Councillor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And again, I do want to commend the Community Development Office for the work that they have put into this. My question, Liz, while we have an audience with us tonight, can you again explain, is this program is there going to be income eligibility with these programs, or is this program going to be utilized by mid to middle income working families that are having a hard time bridging the gap, making them, or is this strictly for low income or already people that may be getting income assistance?
Are we speaking of the rental assistance program? I apologize, my dog is barking.
Correct, specifically for the rental mortgage utility assistance portion.
So a household, in order to be eligible for that assistance, will have to be below 80% of the area median income, which for a family of four is $70,000. So it is based on household size. So, and it's that point in time. So we do need to document what the household's income is, but if they've lost their job and they can't make their rent payments or their mortgage payments, then they are more likely to be eligible for this. So unfortunately, HUD hasn't waived that requirement that we meet that that low moderate income requirement. But 80% is not a very low bar to me.
And would there be a priority system in place for people who have not yet or never received help before versus people who have received help in the past?
We haven't made that determination yet. I assume we're still talking about rental assistance.
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
So we have not made that determination yet. To some degree, that is part of what we'll work through with the entity that we use to administer the funding. We may identify some preferences, but to some degree, it may also be first come, first serve.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Councillor Van Housinga. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. I think it is a great idea to work with an established partner who's already built out this kind of system to administer a program like the rental assistance and mortgage assistance, utility payment assistance. I just had a quick questions about the cost to administer this portion of it if we work with a partner. Would that come out of that allotted $230,000, or would it come out of the grant administration line?
That's a good question. It could be either. Initially, we would look for it to come out of the 230 line, but we may augment with the admin line item. That's certainly an eligible use, and we've been discussing that because we don't know what the proposal for the cost to administer would be right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big question for us, yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have Councillor Boschman. The floor is yours.
Hey, Liz, on the PPE, are we going to get most of that to the city workers for face masks and all that?
That is one of those placeholder line items. I hadn't really worked through that line item to discuss what our intention was, but some of these line items are somewhat of a bit of a placeholder because we're trying to move so fast under HUD's direction that we're trying to get the funding in place so that we can be ready when the funds do come to us, but we still need to really narrow down what the highest and greatest need is. It may be that the city is able to purchase those directly. I know they've done that to some degree, and now it's getting at least a little bit easier to acquire masks and such. So we really, it is our intention to try to get these pieces of PPE to where they're needed most. So it may be service providers, it may be small businesses that are not able to secure masks for their employees. It might be easier for us to purchase a large quantity of masks, but much harder for a business that only has 3 employees to do the same. So that really is still a little bit up in the air, but I don't think it's going to go to employees just because I think that is going to get covered by another source. We have to work to make sure that we're not duplicating benefits that another source is able to pay for.
Oh, okay. All right.
All set, Councilor?
Okay.
Next, we have Councilor Schultz. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Liz, I just had a question. I may have missed it. You may have covered it with the placeholder comment that you made to Councilor Boschman, but I was looking at the 3 lowest figures: the purchase of the PPE, the homelessness services, and the food insecurity assistance, and just wondering how much flexibility you have with the funds in case you find a greater need than's been allocated for those 3 line items. I'm just wondering what kind of flexibility you might have.
I'm really glad you asked that question because we are trying to be very flexible. We can propose another amendment if we find that there are sources to address the needs of our 2 homeless shelters in the area, and we don't need to fund those. We may decide to propose another amendment for a higher need source. The homelessness funds and the food assistance funds are also a bit of placeholders. We're trying to understand what the other sources of funding are that might provide assistance. So we keep hearing from our surveys that these are huge needs. So we didn't want to not fund them, but we don't know exactly what the need is. We've had some conversations with these service providers about the gaps, but there's also other funding that's coming from the CARE Act that is specifically going towards homelessness issues and food insecurity. So, we're just putting these placeholders in, and we'll continue to work with these service providers to see where their gaps are.
Thank you, Liz. That sounds reasonable.
So, councilors, that exhausts the speaking list. We could entertain a motion now if there was an appetite to do so.
So moved.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion and second to accept 12220. Speaking on the motion, although Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Councilor Zarella?
Yes.
President Kushmerek?
Yes.
Councilor Boschman?
Yes.
Councilor Kucher?
Yes.
Councilor Dinatale?
Yes.
Councilor Fleming?
Yes.
Councilor Green? Councilor Green?
I believe we've lost
I
Councilor.
think we lost her. Councilor Schultz?
Yes.
Councilor Squalia?
Yay.
Councilor Van Hazinga?
Yes.
Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Councilor Zarella?
Yes.
That is 10 in favor.
Okay. So we have 10 in favor. The motion carries. And I just want to thank Tom Skowronski and Liz Murphy, not only for being with us this evening and presenting it, but certainly their work behind the scenes. I know this is happening fast, and this is coming at you from multiple directions. And I appreciate how nimble and adaptable you've been in your roles for the city and for our businesses and for our residents. So thank you again for helping to meet everyone's needs here.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next, we have councilors. I think it would be appropriate for us to take these two together, 123 and 12420. Ordered that the city of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Division of Conservation Services, Drinking Water and Supply Protection Grant Program in the approximate amount of $36,208 for the purpose of said grant, which is for the cost of purchasing a certain parcel of land in Ashby known as Porter property. And 12420, ordered that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $45,000, same to be charged against fund balance reserve for land purchases and credited to water capital expenditures, land purchases. Joining us this evening, we have Deputy Water Commissioner John DeLine. John, if you'd like to speak to these matters, I'd love to hear you just do a brief overview.
Sure, that'd be great. Good evening, councilors, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on these. I'd also like to add 125-20 to the.
We'll have to just procedurally. We'll do it. We'll do it differently.
Okay.
If you want to speak to it now, that would be more than acceptable, and we'll simply take the vote afterwards.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Yes, all these orders relate to the purchase of a 20-acre parcel of land on Ringe Road in Ashby, which falls within the watershed to the city's Fitchburg Reservoir. We applied for and received a drinking water supply grant for a purchase of this property. The purchase price is $65,000, and that price is based upon a professional appraisal of the property. There are also some due diligence costs, such as a land survey, baseline documentation report, title search, and things like that, that add up to about $13,915 for a total project cost of $78,915. The grant, the Drinking Water Supply Protection Grant, is a 50-50 cost share, but not all the due diligence costs are reimbursable. So Fitchburg's portion is a bit more than 50% at $42,707, and then will be reimbursed a total of $36,208 from the state. This is similar to the Jewel Hill project that I had before you a couple at the last commission meeting. We received notice of this award together with the Jewel Hill one on April 30th, but only have until June 30th to close on this. So it's another short time frame with no extensions due to COVID-19, despite a bit of a delay in getting the notice of award to us. We do have all the pieces in place to meet the closing deadline. The only thing is I just needed this city council approval to allow me to, for the city to accept the grant money and also expend monies from the Water Division's land protection account. So that's why I'm before you this evening. This property is, in my view, particularly important. We protected a lot of land around the reservoir, but this is one of the properties that is closest to that reservoir and also has a major tributary that flows through it. So preventing, any type of development on it, even a single family house, is going to, forever, help to protect this reservoir forever, which is an important reservoir to the city in the northern watershed. It's a piece of property we've been negotiating with the landowner for several years, going back and forth over this, and we finally got to an agreement where we were able to assign a P&S, contingent upon the grant and all other approvals. But we're finally at the point where, where we're at today, so that we can move forward with the purchase. So I am pleased about it to finally get this to this point, because like I said, it is particularly important. So I'll open up to any questions that anybody may have.
I'll note, Councilor Zarella, I saw your motion to suspend on 125, but because we already have a suspension on a set area of finance orders and not just orders other, I'd prefer if we could just procedurally, while we may speak to broadly to 125-20, I'd prefer that we do a separate vote just to record these separately. That said, if there are any questions from councilors, otherwise the matter is before the council.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and second to accept 123 and 124-20. Speaking on the motion, seeing none, Madam Clerk, a roll call vote, please.
Councilor Zarella.
Yes.
President Kushmerek.
Yes.
Councilor Boschman.
Yay.
Councilor Kucher.
Yes.
Councilor Di Natale.
Yes.
Councilor Fleming.
Yes.
Councilor Green.
Yes.
Councilor Schultz.
Yes.
Councilor Squalia.
Yay.
Councilor Van Hazinga.
Yes.
Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
It's unanimous. Motion carries. Now order other 125-20, ordered that authorizing the city of Fitchburg to purchase a certain parcel of land in Ashby known as Porter property being a 20-acre parcel of land located on Crocker Road in Ashby within the watershed of Fitchburg Reservoir is outlined in the enclosed order. Councilors, I would request a
Make a
suspension.
motion, we accept.
Seconded.
I believe this would require suspension of the rules.
Motion to suspend.
I have a motion
Second.
and second for suspension of the rules on 12520. This will be done by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmarek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous. Motion carries. The matter is before the council. Councilor Boishman, I would recognize such a motion to accept now.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Boishman and a second from Councilor Zarella to accept 12520 by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmarek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Unanimous. Motion carries. Deputy Commissioner DeLine, thank you for joining us this evening. I appreciate your work on this matter and for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Next, councilors, we have petitions. All petitions 126 through 13020 stand referred to their respective committees unless there were objections from councilors. Seeing none, those will be referred. And councilors, before we adjourn, I just wanted to both to make the public aware, I want to thank Mayor Di Natale and Solicitor Busateri. I failed to recognize them in some of these council meetings that we've had over the past couple of months, but I know they're working long hours addressing the COVID situation, but they have yet to miss a meeting, and I appreciate what they're doing and for continuing to join us, even though I know the public may not always see that they're with us. So thank you to you both. And I want to continue to thank FATV. They continue to make improvements and make it easier for the city to do city business, not only this body as a city council, but boards and commissions across the entire city are now having access, televised access to their meetings that they never had before. And quite frankly, they would be unable to meet right now if it weren't for the efforts of FATV. So once again, thank you for being such a tremendous partner to our city. With that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn by roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Zarella,
Yes.
President Kushmarek,
Yes.
Counselor Boishman,
Yes.
Counselor Kucher,
Yes.
Counselor Di Natale,
Yes.
Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Schultz,
Yes.
Counselor Squalia,
Yay.
Counselor Van Hazinga,
Yes.
Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Thank you, councilors. We are adjourned. Stay safe and healthy, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.